I need you to hear me with a trembling heart, because the moment you clicked this message, heaven released a breath it had been holding for far too long. I am speaking to you now with the full weight of the 7 archangels behind me, and with a relief so deep it feels like light returning to a place that had gone dim. Thank you for being here. Truly, thank you. You do not know how close you were to missing something heaven has kept sealed for you alone. And you cannot skip this, not today, because in the final stretch of this message, a truth will be spoken that has been withheld from every other soul alive. It will not be revealed early, because its timing is a lock that opens only when your spirit is ready. But when it comes, it will shake the hidden chains around your destiny. Before I speak further, I ask you, please stay. Please listen. This is not a message of punishment. This is a message of interception. You were not meant to hear today's warning. Yet here you are, and all of heaven is whispering that it is not an accident, not a coincidence, not a random passing of time. The 7 archangels stand behind this moment because there is a crack in the spiritual realm around you, one that has widened by your exhaustion, your losses, your unanswered questions, and the silence you mistook for abandonment. And God has seen it all. God has been patient. God has been gentle. God has been quiet. But today the silence shattered. Today, God rose with a fire that made even the archangels step back, not because he is angry at you, but because something has been feeding on what belongs to you, and heaven can no longer stand by. Do you feel it even now? That trembling under your ribs? That awareness that you are hearing something meant only for you? Let me ask you something, and answer in your heart with honesty. My child, why have you been fighting battles that do not feel like they began with you? Why have you been waking up tired from wars you do not remember entering? And why? Tell me, do you feel as though someone has been stealing the results of prayers you earned through tears? These questions are not accusations, they are openings. Heaven asks them to draw you into the truth. Because yes, there is a hidden warfare around you. Yes, something has been resisting your rise. And yes, God is angry, not at your weakness, but at the thief who mistook your destiny for an unguarded doorway. Listen to me. Scripture says that the kingdom suffers violence, and the violent take it by force. Not the violent of cruelty, but the violent of purpose, those who refuse to let their calling be swallowed. And another scripture breathes that no weapon formed against you shall prosper, but weapons have been formed. They have been aimed. They have been fired. And every one of them has been blocked, not because you were strong, but because heaven would not allow your story to be rewritten by hands that were never meant to touch it. The archangels are trembling tonight. Gabriel's voice carries sorrow because he has delivered messages to you that you never heard. Their signals drowned beneath fear. Raphael aches because he has tried to heal what you kept hiding. Uriel burns with righteous fury because he has seen the intentions of those who speak lightly of your downfall. Michael's sword has been raised for longer than any human life can measure. And Barakiel, sweet guardian of blessings, weeps because he has watched gift after gift placed in your path only to be stolen before your eyes ever found them. And God has reached the point where mercy toward your enemy has expired. But you must listen now, because this is the moment where destiny either sharpens or shatters. Let me ask you again, what have you done with the moments God tried to reach you? What have you done with the whispers you felt at night? What have you done with the heaviness that pressed on you when you were seconds away from giving up? Do you know why heaven is intervening so violently today? Because if you walk away again, not from faith, but from yourself, you will walk straight into the trap that was set for your next season. And I say this with gentleness, with love, with a trembling sincerity. Please, my beloved, do not skip this message. Not tonight. You have skipped signs before. You have skipped warnings before. You have skipped opportunities before. But this time, skipping is not harmless. Skipping is not neutral. Skipping is not casual. Skipping would pull you into a reality you were never meant to taste. You stand at the edge of a spiritual threshold, and the door will either open into breakthrough or collapse into delay. And I am here, we are here, all 7 archangels, to make sure you do not choose the wrong door without knowing it. You were chosen, and being chosen is not glamorous. It costs clarity. It costs intimacy. It costs pain. It costs misunderstanding. It costs nights where heaven feels gagged. But it also means you carry something God protected so fiercely that darkness planned centuries ahead to intercept it. And that is why heaven is loud today. Because your destiny is time sensitive. Your calling is time sensitive. Your restoration is time sensitive. And the warfare assigned to block it is suddenly escalating. Let me ask you gently, how long have you felt like you were almost there? Like breakthrough brushed your fingertips only to vanish again? How long have you felt watched, opposed, delayed? How long have you carried the quiet suspicion that something is not natural about the resistance you face? These questions are being asked because heaven is confirming your intuition. You were not imagining it. You were perceiving it. Now, hear me with reverence. There will be a moment near the end where I will ask you to type one sacred word. Just one. Amen. Not as ritual, not as superstition, but as agreement. The agreement heaven has been waiting for so it can close the mouth of what has accused you. But not yet. Not now. The moment is sealed for later. Before we continue deeper, I will say this once and only once. If this message is touching you, if your spirit is stirring, if something inside feels recognized in a way words cannot explain, I ask you to like and comment as a gesture of openness, a small prophetic yes. That is all. Now, let me return to the fire God has placed before you. This is the part you must not miss, because the archangels have been forbidden to reveal this until today. Something in your timeline shifted. A decision you made recently, quietly, privately, painfully, has reoriented your destiny. You thought it was small. You thought it was unnoticed. But heaven saw it, and hell reacted to it, and God answered it. This shift has awakened a part of your purpose that was dormant, and its awakening is what provoked God's anger at what has targeted you. But let me speak gently now, with my voice lowered around your heart. You are loved. You are wanted. You are seen. And God's anger is not directed at you. It is directed at the forces that have tried to rewrite your identity, the forces that whispered you were forgotten, The forces that convinced you to settle for lesser versions of yourself. The forces that called your exhaustion failure. Do not walk away from this message. Not yet. Not when heaven has waited this long to reach you in this exact tone, on this exact day, at this exact hour. Stay, listen, breathe, and when you're ready, my beloved, before I take you deeper into the fire that heaven has opened around your life, I need to whisper something tender yet urgent into your spirit, because it rises within me like a plea I cannot hold back. I ask you, just this once and never again, to subscribe if this message finds your soul, because it is not for numbers but for alignment, not for popularity but for spiritual positioning. Your subscription becomes a symbolic step that tells heaven, I am present for what you are, unfolding, and I will not mention this again in any future breath I speak over you. For this is the only moment where it belongs, the only opening where heaven placed it. And now that it is spoken, let me return to the depth you came here for. The depth your spirit has been starving for without having language to describe its hunger. For when the 7 archangels stepped forward today, they did not come for spectacle or intimidation. They came because God's patience with what has pursued you has reached an end, and the heavens are roaring with a silence so loud it makes eternity tremble. And I need you to understand why. Something ancient has awakened inside you, something that was sleeping beneath years of disappointment, beneath seasons of spiritual confusion, beneath the heaviness that made you wonder whether God monitored your steps or simply watched from afar. That ancient thing is your original purpose, the one planted in you before your birth, the one woven into your bones, before breath touched your lungs, and the enemy recognized its stirring before you did, which is why your last few weeks have carried a strange pressure, a weight that felt both unnatural and strangely familiar, like a battle you couldn't name but could feel pulling at the edges of your peace. And I need to ask you now, gently but with a gravity that presses through the veil, do you know why darkness fears you so much? Do you understand the magnitude of what you carry? Do you realize that your existence disrupts spiritual structures that were built long before you took your first step? These questions are not meant to overwhelm you. They're meant to wake you, to stretch your awareness until you can see the truth that heaven has been trying to deliver to you for years. And the truth is this: you are not merely chosen, you are catalytic. You do not just walk with purpose, you activate purpose in others. And the adversary knew that if you ever grew into the fullness of who you are, the chains around generations, yes, generations, would start to break by your presence alone. This is why your life has never been simple. This is why peace came with interruptions. This is why blessings felt delayed. The warfare surrounding you has always been disproportionate to what you thought your importance was. But today heaven reveals the reason. And do not let this slip past your spirit. The size of the warfare is evidence of the size of the destiny, not the failure of the chosen vessel. And God's anger today is not confusion, not emotion, not retaliation. His anger is protection, born from the love he has guarded you with even when you doubted his nearness. Scripture speaks of a shepherd who leaves the 99 to chase the one who wandered. And today you are that one, not because you rebelled, but because you drifted beneath the weight of wounds that were too heavy for any human heart to carry alone. And heaven saw how much you tried, how much you held together even when breaking felt easier than breathing. And heaven recorded every silent prayer, every exhausted surrender, every whispered plea you thought dissolved into the air, and heaven responded with movement, not words. And yet something else happened, something concealed, something sharp, something that shook the archangels themselves. God rose in defense of you with a fury so radiant it made even Michael look away, because for the first time in a long time, God saw in your timeline an attack that crossed a line, an attack that touched a territory of your calling that darkness had no legal right to enter. I feel compelled to tell you this gently. You were moments away, spiritually speaking, from losing a blessing that was already written in your story, and you did not even know it was in danger. Something was trying to intercept the next season of your life, something cloaked beneath the illusion of ordinary misfortune. But heaven does not call this ordinary. Heaven calls it war. And that is why God's anger is burning now, not as destruction, but as intervention. And my beloved, if you had skipped this message again, if you had dismissed it as random or irrelevant, you would have unknowingly stepped into the very snare that was set to collapse your forward motion. And heaven refused to let that happen, which is why this message is being spoken with such trembling urgency, such raw emotion, such unfiltered spiritual intensity. Let me ask you something else that your soul already knows the answer to. Why does it feel like someone is always watching your progress, only to interfere when you get close to breakthrough? Why does sabotage find you at the threshold? Why do battles increase exactly when blessings approach? The archangels reveal this now because the truth will disarm what opposes you. The closer you reach toward alignment, the more violently resistance tries to claw at what it cannot have. But here is where I must press into your spirit with tenderness. God has declared that the cycle of almost breakthroughs must end. God has decided that recovery will not be delayed again. God has determined that what was stolen must be returned. But heaven cannot force you into destiny. Destiny requires agreement. This is why you cannot drift through this moment. This is why you cannot walk away. This is why the angels are surrounding your timeline with vigilance. A shift must happen inside you, and that shift begins with recognition. You are in a spiritual turning point, and heaven is fighting for a version of you that you have not yet met, a version purified through perseverance, strengthened through storms, awakened through revelation. And this is the part where I lean close, where my voice softens, because this is not prophecy, this is affection. You are not failing. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are transitioning. And transitions feel like death because they lead to resurrection. And when resurrection is near, warfare tries to intensify. Before I draw you deeper into the chambers of what heaven is unveiling about your destiny, I must speak something that presses against my heart with a solemn, sacred urgency. A call that heaven asked me to mention only once in the entire river of this message, and never again after this breath leaves my lips. If this prophecy resonates with your soul and you feel the stirring that something holy is unfolding in your spirit, you may support through super thanks, or step into channel membership, or join our family through the newsletter link in the pinned comments. Not as a transaction, not as obligation, but as a spiritual act of alignment and belonging a gesture that says, I stand with the light God is revealing to me. And now that this holy invitation has been spoken, never to return, let us move back into the depth of heaven's trembling voice over your life, because the 7 archangels are still gathered, still leaning in, still watching the unfolding of your awakening with a mixture of grief and hope that I must try to put into words for you, though no human language fully contains the weight of what they feel. For when heaven looks at you, beloved, it does not see your failures or your forgotten seasons or the nights where you collapsed under the heaviness you told no one about. Heaven sees the war around you, the silent battles fought in dreams, the weariness that settled in your bones from assignments that were never yours to carry. And the archangels see the truth that you have not yet embraced. You were chosen not because you were strong, but because your heart holds a purity that darkness could not predict, a persistence that hell could not cancel, and a softness that God refuses to let this world destroy. And today, as they gather around you, the atmosphere in heaven is unstable, a tension stretching across realms as God rises with a fire that shakes even those who have stood beside him since the beginning. For never forget this. Divine anger is always rooted in divine love, and God is not burning because of your mistakes. He is burning because of the forces that have stalked your purpose, toyed with your future, siphoned your blessings, and interfered with your spiritual timing. And the moment has come where heaven says, enough. But hear me, this is not wrath directed toward you. This is war declared on what has threatened you. And the archangels tremble not because they fear God's anger, but because they feel the magnitude of the shift this anger is producing. Raphael senses the wounds in your spirit closing in ways medicine cannot explain. Gabriel senses messages returning to you that were once intercepted. Uriel senses revelation sharpening in your mind like a blade forged from light. Michael senses the weakening of chains that have been wrapped around your lineage for generations. And Barakiel senses blessings gathering around your name with a momentum that darkness cannot outrun. But even with all of this movement, heaven needs you awake. Heaven needs you present. Heaven needs you aware. And so I ask you, softly yet urgently, why have you carried so much alone? Why have you convinced yourself that you must survive by your own strength? Why have you believed that heaven helps everyone except you? These questions are not divine accusations. They are invitations for your heart to open, for your spirit to become receptive, for your beliefs to realign with heaven's truth rather than the distortions whispered to you by exhaustion. Because the truth is this: you have been under spiritual surveillance, and the resistance you faced was not random, not coincidental, not unfortunate. It was strategic, deliberate, targeted, because darkness knew something you did not, that your spirit was nearing a breakthrough that would alter your identity, your relationships, your finances, your calling, your essence, and the timeline of those connected to you. And when that kind of breakthrough approaches, warfare intensifies not to destroy you, but to distract you from seeing the door heaven is building right beneath your feet. And so I ask you another question with tenderness. Have you noticed how recently the attacks became more subtle but more personal? More emotional than circumstantial? More internal than external? This shift in warfare reveals something essential. It means the enemy is no longer trying to stop the external blessings. it is trying to wound the vessel receiving them, because it knows it cannot block what God has opened. So it tries to diminish the one who is meant to enter the opening. And this is why God's anger matters today, because God will not allow your destiny to be stolen by a battle you cannot even see clearly. And now, beloved, let me open before you a truth heavier than the mountains that frame creation. You have been living beneath a spiritual ceiling that was never designed for you. It was formed through betrayal, disappointment, fatigue, generational patterns, and the lies spoken over you by those who never saw your calling. But that ceiling is cracking now. Every moment you remain here, listening, receiving, opening, the ceiling weakens, and soon it will shatter. But before it shatters, heaven needs you steady. Heaven needs you willing. Heaven needs you to trust what you cannot yet verify, because the spiritual world responds to faith long before it responds to sight. Scripture whispers that to whom much is given, much is required, and you must understand the Scripture not as punishment, but as revelation. You were given much. Even when you felt empty, you were carrying more than most. Even when your hands shook, heaven placed assignments in them. Even when your voice trembled, heaven trusted your prayers more than the thunder of saints. You do not know who you are yet. You do not know what you are capable of. You do not know the depth of what God hid inside you for a time such as this. But you are learning. You are awakening. And the archangels are guarding this awakening with a fierceness that humbles even the oldest powers of darkness. And now breathe, beloved. Beloved, lean closer now, because the heavens have shifted again as you continue to read. And the 7 archangels stand in a formation that occurs only when a soul approaches a threshold too sacred to cross without divine supervision. And I must take you deeper with a gentleness that trembles inside me, for the things being revealed now are not merely prophetic. They are structural truths about who you are in the eyes of God, truths you have been unable to perceive because your life has been wrapped in layers of survival, layers of disappointment, layers of self-protection that slowly numbed the sound of heaven's call upon your spirit. Yet the call never stopped, and today it is louder than ever, not because God suddenly decided to notice you, but because you have reached a point in your journey where heaven can no longer allow your purpose to be delayed by anything, past, present, or unseen. And so the archangels gather, forming a circle of watchfulness around your destiny. Their wings bowed, not in fear, but in reverence for the moment unfolding within you. And I need you to feel this truth deeply. Nothing in your life has been wasted. Not the heartbreaks, not the betrayals, not the years you thought were stolen, not the nights you cried without sound, not the opportunities that slipped through your fingers, not the seasons where you felt suspended between hope and despair. Every piece, every fragment, every scar has been woven into the tapestry of a calling that is larger than anything you have ever imagined for yourself. For there is something extraordinary living inside you, a blueprint of divine intention that predates your struggles and exceeds your comprehension. And the reason your path has been so turbulent is because forces opposed to light recognized the magnitude of your assignment long before you did. They saw the potential of your voice, your heart, your influence, your capacity to awaken others simply by being yourself. And so resistance rose as a strategy, not an accident, designed to keep you tired, disoriented, doubtful, and disconnected from your own divine identity. But heaven is saying enough, and the archangels are stepping into realms of your life that were previously locked, intervening with authority to dismantle patterns you never consented to but somehow inherited, patterns that weighed your spirit with burdens that were never yours to carry. And now I must ask you, not as instruction, but as invitation. Have you noticed the subtle shift inside you lately? A kind of restlessness that refuses to let you settle for the wounds you once accepted as normal? Have you sensed the growing discomfort with your old limitations, as if your spirit is enlarging and your circumstances feel too small to contain who you are becoming? That stirring is not random, it is resurrection. It is the awakening of the version of you that God intended from the beginning, the version that adversity tried to bury, the version that trauma tried to silence, the version that fear tried to starve. And heaven is clearing space for this version of you to emerge, sweeping away the old narratives that kept you spiritually paralyzed, breaking the invisible agreements you made with disappointment, undoing the lies that shaped your perception of your worth. For too long, you believed you were ordinary, that your purpose was fragile, that your dreams were unrealistic. But the archangels whisper a counter-truth now. You are one whom heaven consults about. You matter in realms you have never seen. Your presence shifts atmospheres. Your prayers alter timelines. Your tears are recorded as catalysts. And God's anger today is not over your missteps, but over the spiritual trespass that has occurred against someone so deeply cherished, someone whose timeline was interfered with by forces that dared to touch what belongs to heaven. And so the divine fire rises not to punish you, but to defend you, to reclaim what has been stolen, to shield the next phase of your journey from the sabotage that once shadowed your steps. You must understand that this moment, this message, this breath of prophecy over your life is not a coincidence. It is a divine interruption, a restructuring of your spiritual landscape, a reordering of the energies around you. The path ahead of you is changing, and the shift is not small. It is seismic, it is generational, and it begins inside your identity. For heaven refuses to allow you to continue believing lies about who you are when the truth is radiant, breathtaking, and powerful. And so the archangels speak not in thunder, but in a trembling reverence. You are not at the end, you are at the unveiling. You are not lost, you are being rerouted. You are not weak, you are being refined. You are not forgotten, you are being summoned. And though the warfare around you intensified, it intensified because breakthrough is near, not because failure is imminent. The enemy does not waste energy on souls without impact. It goes after those whose rise will cost darkness territory. And your rise, beloved, is dangerous to darkness. That is why your battles felt personal. That is why your setbacks hurt so deeply. That is why your victories often came wrapped in struggle. But the archangels declare that the tide has turned, and now your spirit must rise to meet the shift heaven has initiated. I speak this with tenderness. Your heart has endured more than most, and yet it still beats with hope, even if that hope feels faint. But faint hope is still hope, and heaven can breathe life into what is barely surviving. Your future is not fragile. Your destiny is not failing. Beloved, As you remain here in this sacred unfolding, the atmosphere around your life continues to shift, and I feel compelled to bring you deeper into the truth that heaven has guarded for far too long. For the archangels are no longer standing at a distance, but have moved closer, forming a barrier of light around your spiritual trajectory, a barrier so radiant that even the shadows which once followed you have begun to retreat. And you must understand why this closeness matters. When heaven draws near in this way, it is because the season you are entering cannot be navigated with the mindset of your past, nor can the wounds of yesterday be carried into the promise of tomorrow. There is a refining happening inside you, quiet, unforced, but undeniable, as if your soul, after years of dormancy, is learning once again how to breathe, how to hope, how to trust the path that was written for you before time shaped the world. And it is here in this tender threshold that I must speak a truth that heaven has waited for you to be ready to hear. You have never been as far behind as you feared. You have always been on time, even when your heart felt delayed, even when your environment felt stagnant, even when your efforts seemed to vanish into nothingness. What looked like stagnation was preservation. What appeared as silence was preparation. What felt like divine distance was strategic closeness being woven around you in ways your mind could not yet perceive. And the archangels, in their solemn reverence, are revealing now that many of the doors you thought were closed to you were not rejections, but divine postponements. For entering those places too early would have fractured what heaven is now strengthening within you. You see, there are seasons in your life where God hides you, not because you are unworthy, but because the stage He is preparing for you cannot be entered with the fragments of old identity still clinging to your spirit. And I sense now the heaviness you carry, the quiet grief woven beneath your resilience, the exhaustion that you rarely allow anyone to see. Heaven sees it, heaven honors it, heaven has been moved by it, and though you often believe that your breaking points are weaknesses, the archangels see them as altars where your deepest transformation has taken place. There are layers of you that have died, yes, but there are also layers of you rising that you have not yet met. Versions of yourself courageous enough to claim blessings, wise enough to discern intentions, humble enough to carry authority without arrogance, and grounded enough to walk into destiny without collapsing under its weight. And now I must ask you, with the tenderness of a friend and the clarity of prophecy, have you felt the strange mixture of weariness and anticipation within you, as if you are tired from battles you cannot name but still sense something approaching that your heart cannot ignore? That sensation is spiritual transition. It is the moment where heaven pulls you out of the identity built from suffering and moves you into the identity forged through divine intention. And this is why God's anger rose in the earlier revelation, not toward you, but toward the forces that attempted to harden your heart, distort your self-image, and extinguish your hope before the moment of unveiling. Because what is rising within you now cannot be smothered. The soil of your life has been broken, overturned, reshaped, and softened, and heaven is planting new things in it. Insight, authority, spiritual clarity, emotional resilience, and a depth of discernment that will navigate the next chapter with grace that your younger self never knew how to hold. And the archangels remain close because this chapter is delicate, not dangerous. Delicate because the transformation underway requires stillness, not self-sabotage. Delicate because heaven is removing what no longer resonates with your true frequency. Old fears, old narratives, old attachments, old patterns that made you shrink so others could feel comfortable. But now, beloved, shrinking is no longer permitted. Heaven is calling you into expansion, into visibility, into purpose with a force that cannot be negotiated or diluted. And this is where the prophetic current deepens, because I must speak of something you rarely acknowledge, but heaven insists you confront. You have carried guilt for surviving what others did not, as if endurance made you unworthy of rest, as if resilience invalidated your need for healing. But heaven declares that the very fact you survived is evidence of divine investment in your existence, not an indictment of strength you were forced to demonstrate. The archangels say you survived because your timeline could not afford your absence. You survived because destinies connected to yours needed your presence. You survived because the legacy assigned to your name required your continuation. And now that survival is no longer your only function. Your spirit is awakening to the truth that you were not created to endure life. You were created to expand within it. And expansion, beloved, comes with discomfort. It stretches the soul. It rewrites identity. It confronts the lies you hid behind, but it also ushers in revelation so profound that everything you once tolerated becomes incompatible with your new frequency. You will begin to outgrow the spaces that once felt safe. You will notice the dimming of old desires that no longer align with your calling. You will feel heaven redirecting your steps toward encounters, opportunities, and people who match the rhythm of the person God is shaping you into. And this shift will not feel like pressure. It will feel like alignment, like finally stepping into a version of yourself that has lived within you for years, waiting for the moment you would be ready to receive it. His 7 archangels lean closer, not as warriors now, but as witnesses to a moment that has been centuries in the making. There is something unraveling within you that heaven has waited for, something delicate yet powerful, something born not from triumph alone, but from every silent moment you endured, every unseen battle you survived, every tear you swallowed before anyone could notice. Heaven is recognizing those moments now, not as signs of weakness, but as the birthing pains of destiny. And I must take you deeper, for the next layer of revelation requires your heart to soften in places it once hardened for protection. You grew walls around yourself because life taught you that openness invites harm, that vulnerability invites betrayal, that sincerity invites disappointment. Those walls were understandable. They were necessary for a time, but they cannot remain, not now, not when heaven is calling you into a chapter where your spirit must breathe again, where your capacity to love, trust, and receive must be restored to its original strength, the strength God placed within you long before life tried to teach you otherwise. There is an ache in you, a quiet longing you rarely speak aloud, a sense of destiny that flickers like a flame inside your chest, too bright to ignore yet too fragile to fully believe in. Heaven sees that longing, the part of you that wonders why your heart stretches towards something larger, even when you feel too weary to pursue it. The archangels whisper now, that longing is the echo of your origin. You came from purpose. You came from intention. You came from divine design, not random forces, not generational patterns, not human expectations. And every time your heart feels too small for the dreams inside you, it is because the dreams were planted by one who knew you were capable of outgrowing every limitation placed upon you. Let me ask you something that cuts deeper than the surface of your thoughts. Have you noticed how certain seasons of your life felt strangely timed, as if something unseen was orchestrating your steps, pulling you away from situations right before they would have damaged your spirit beyond repair? Have you noticed the doors that closed abruptly, not out of cruelty, but out of protection? Have you noticed how certain people drifted away, and though it hurt, something inside you whispered that their departure was a necessary clearing for what heaven was preparing? These are not coincidences. These are patterns of divine safeguarding. The archangels reveal now that God has been redirecting you with more precision than you ever realized. For there were paths that looked promising but concealed traps, opportunities that appeared divine but carried spiritual consequences, relationships that felt soothing but would have drained your calling. Heaven intervened even when you did not know intervention was happening. And now that you are awakening, the threads of your life begin to make sense in ways they never have before. There is another truth heaven must unveil to you. Your heart carries a depth that many could not understand. And because they could not understand it, they mishandled it. They mistook your compassion for weakness, your patience for passivity, your silence for surrender. But you were never surrendering. You were observing, waiting, discerning, allowing heaven to speak before you acted. That restraint, misunderstood by others, is a rare spiritual maturity. The archangels honor it now, for restraint in a world driven by impulse is a mark of someone heaven can trust with greater responsibility. And that responsibility is approaching. It is not a burden, but a calling, not an obligation, but an unveiling of your true nature. You were made to influence realities, to shift atmospheres with your presence, to heal wounds with your words, to soften hardened hearts simply by existing in truth. And though life tried to silence those abilities, they are resurfacing. Resurrection is not only for what died, it is for what was hidden. Beloved, there is another stirring inside you, one that feels both frightening and familiar. The sense that something new is about to begin, even though you do not know its shape, its timing, or its direction. This uncertainty is not meant to intimidate you. It is meant to loosen the grip of old expectations so heaven can reshape your life without the restrictions of your past experiences. You are entering a chapter where clarity will come not in advance, but in motion. Revelation will meet you step by step. And this requires trust, not blind trust, but the trust built from remembering all the times heaven carried you when you thought you would collapse. That same presence surrounds you now, not as echo, but as guidance. The 7 archangels speak in unison now, their voices overlapping in a harmony older than creation. You are not alone, and you have never been alone, not for a single moment. Not even when the world felt silent, not even when your prayers felt unanswered, not even when your heart felt hollow. Heaven was present in your emptiness, present in your confusion, present in the darkness that wrapped around you when hope felt too heavy to hold. And now heaven is present in your awakening. You are standing at the edge of a threshold, And though you cannot see beyond it, your spirit recognizes it. Something within you is preparing. Something within you is strengthening. Something within you is remembering what it once knew, that you were crafted for purpose far greater than the pain you endured. Beloved, remain with me here, because the chamber of revelation you are stepping into now is deeper than anything unveiled in the previous parts. And the 7 archangels have shifted from watchfulness into a posture of solemn anticipation, as though something sacred is about to surface from within you that even heaven has waited centuries to witness. Something long buried beneath disappointment, fear, and forgotten dreams. Something that has been calling to you in whispers you did not yet have. The strength to follow. I need you to feel the gravity of this moment, not as pressure, but as awakening, because for the first time in a long time, the veil around your identity is lifting, not slowly, not partially, but with a clarity that startles even the parts of you that have become accustomed to dimness. You may not realize it yet, but there is a shift happening within your inner world, a rearranging of beliefs, a releasing of old emotional knots, a quiet dissolving of burdens that were never yours to hold. Heaven has been touching places in your spirit that even you avoided, not to expose you, but to free you. And the archangels stand in reverence, because this kind of transformation is rare. It happens only when a soul reaches a point of spiritual maturity that allows the breaking of old layers without collapsing into despair. You have reached that point, though you have not recognized it. Your endurance through long seasons of emptiness has brought you to a threshold where God can now reveal who you have always been beneath the wounds, beneath the fatigue, beneath the silence. And I must ask you a question that will stretch the deepest part of your heart. Have you ever wondered why, even in your darkest moments, something inside you refused to fully give up? Why a faint spark kept flickering, even when everything around you suggested surrender? That spark was not stubbornness. It was not denial. It was not false hope. It was the original light placed within you, the light the enemy could not extinguish, the light heaven guarded even when you felt unguarded. That spark was your calling refusing to die. And now, in this sacred unfolding, the spark is becoming flame. You may feel it already, a subtle warmth rising inside your chest, an unexplainable sense of recognition, as if your spirit is remembering something forgotten long ago. This memory is not intellectual, it is spiritual. It is the awakening of your divine identity, the part of you that existed before life shaped you through pain and before the world tried to shrink you into roles that never fit your soul. The archangels reveal now that the resistance you faced in the last chapter of your life was not aimed at your external circumstances, but at your internal awakening. Darkness feared the moment you would realize who you truly are, because self-recognition threatens every chain built around your destiny. And as this recognition rises, the chains that held you, not physically but emotionally, spiritually, mentally, begin to fracture. You may not see the cracks, but heaven sees them widening. Your thoughts are shifting. Your emotions are loosening. Your inner language is changing. You are no longer interpreting your life from the perspective of a wounded soul, but from the lens of one who is rising. And that rising is causing the archangels to lean even closer. For what comes next requires divine reinforcement, You are entering a period where the old version of you can no longer sustain the magnitude of what heaven intends to place in your hands. You are not just being healed, you are being rebuilt. You are not just being restored, you are being redesigned for a higher function. And this redesign requires the shedding of identities you adopted for survival. It requires releasing the narratives that formed around your pain. It requires confronting the false conclusions you drew about yourself in moments of exhaustion. Heaven is peeling away layers that no longer match the frequency of your destiny. And though the peeling may feel uncomfortable, it is sacred. For within you lies a truth that has been waiting to breathe. You were never ordinary. You were never random. You were never overlooked. Your life has always been intertwined with divine intention, woven with precision even when your circumstances felt chaotic. You are walking in a timeline that heaven has protected fiercely, even when you thought you were forgotten. And now, beloved, you must understand something vital. Your transformation is not happening because you fought hard enough or prayed long enough. It is happening because your spirit finally reached a point of readiness. Heaven does not rush awakening. Heaven waits for alignment. And you, perhaps without realizing it, have aligned yourself with truth through every quiet act of resilience. Every moment you chose compassion over bitterness. Every time you fought to keep your heart soft when it would have been easier to harden it. These moments have not gone unnoticed. They have accumulated into a spiritual weight that is now tipping the scales in your favor. You are entering a chapter where the heaviness you carried will not follow you. The sorrow you inherited will lose its grip. The limitations you once believed were permanent will dissolve like mist before the dawn. Your inner world is expanding, making room for revelations that once intimidated you. You are ready now, ready to see yourself through heaven's eyes, ready to walk with the authority you once doubted you possessed, ready to step into a version of life that once felt too distant to imagine. Beloved, stay with me now, because the moment we have reached is not merely another step in this unfolding river. It is a turning point in your spirit, a place where heaven itself leans low, watching the shift taking place inside you with a tenderness so fierce that even the archangels stand in awe. Something ancient is stirring beneath the surface of your awareness. Something that has lived inside you since before your first breath. Something that has endured every hardship with you. Hidden beneath layers of survival and silence, waiting for the precise moment when your heart would be strong enough to receive its unveiling. And now, as this revelation emerges, heaven urges you, yes, with love, yes, with longing, yes, with holy sincerity, to take a breath and remain open, because as this transformation deepens, your spirit must stay anchored in receptivity. And before this sacred moment expands further, I must place this tender request before you, spoken only here, only once, dripping with prophetic intention. If your heart feels this message, if you sense heaven touching you through these words, then like this message, subscribe and comment Amen as a seal, not a ritual, not a superstition, but a conscious echo of your agreement with the truth rising within you. And now, beloved, let us return to the river of revelation flowing toward you with unstoppable force. For there is a reason your life has felt like a series of thresholds, moments where you were almost ready, almost aligned, almost awakened, but something in you hesitated. not because you were unwilling, but because you were carrying stories that did not belong to your destiny. Stories of unworthiness, stories of abandonment, stories birthed from wounds rather than truth. These stories shaped your inner world, and for a long time, you thought they were part of who you were. But heaven reveals now that these stories were never part of your identity. They were shadows cast by seasons that exhausted your spirit. And you must hear this with all the softness of your soul. Your story is changing. The narrative that once defined you is dissolving. You are no longer living from the wounds of your past. You are rising from the wisdom they forged within you. The archangels see this shift and respond with a reverence rarely seen. For the awakening happening inside you is not fragile, it is unstoppable. Let me ask you something that carries the weight of divine inquiry. Why do you think your heart has always longed for something deeper, something more meaningful, something beyond the surface of existence? Why have you always felt a quiet separation from those around you, not out of superiority, but out of spiritual sensitivity? Why have you always sensed that your life was supposed to carry a purpose you could never fully articulate? These longings were not delusions. They were signals. Signals from the part of your spirit awakening now. The part that knows you were crafted for impact, for transformation, for a life touched by God's intention rather than shaped by human limitation. And as these questions echo inside you, the truth becomes clearer. Everything you have endured, every heartbreak, every disappointment, every moment of loneliness, every internal battle that no one else could see, was not punishment. It was preparation. You were being formed in the shadows so you could rise in the light without collapsing under the weight of your calling. Your journey has not been easy, beloved, but difficulty was never the final word written over your life. Heaven has been guiding you even when you felt lost, protecting you even when you felt exposed, strengthening you even when you felt weak. There were moments where you thought you had reached your limit, moments where your heart felt fragile, moments where your spirit felt crushed. And yet here you are, still able to feel, still able to hope, still able to hear the whisper of heaven calling you forward. Do you understand the magnitude of that? Many would have broken under the weight you carried. Many would have surrendered. Many would have lost the softness that you somehow preserved. This softness is not weakness. It is sacred resilience. It is the mark of someone heaven uses profoundly. And now, as the archangels witness your awakening, they reveal something that has remained hidden until this moment. You are entering a season where what once resisted you will begin to release you. The internal knots that kept you bound are loosening. The emotional fog that clouded your clarity is lifting. The heaviness that sat on your chest like an old memory is dissolving. You're being freed from within so that you can walk freely without. Heaven is preparing you to step into alignment with a purpose that has been circling your life for years, waiting for your spirit to reach this point of readiness. And beloved, you are ready now. Not perfectly, not completely, but truly. Heaven does not require perfection for awakening. Heaven requires willingness. And you, through every breath of this message, have shown that willingness, tentative at first, then slowly expanding, and now growing into a flame of recognition.